It was the year 1805, and the small village of the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. It was a peaceful, isolated community nestled deep in the heart of the forest. But something was lurking in the darkness, something that the villagers could not explain. It started with strange noises in the night, like the sound of something scraping against the trees. Then there were reports of shadowy figures darting through the trees, glimpsed only briefly before disappearing into the darkness. At first, the villagers dismissed these sightings as the work of their overactive imaginations, or perhaps the antics of local children playing pranks. But then, one day, a little girl ventured deep into the forest searching for herbs for her mother's brew and never returned. The village was thrown into a panic, and a search party was quickly assembled to go in search of the missing girl. As they pushed deeper into the forest, the group noticed signs of a struggle: broken branches, trampled undergrowth, and patches of blood-soaked earth. And then, they saw it. Standing in the clearing ahead of them was a creature unlike any they had ever seen before. It was humanoid in shape, but its body was covered in shaggy, matted fur, and it had a long, pointed snout filled with sharp teeth. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness, and its wings unfurled, casting a shadow over the search party. It was the Jersey Devil. The creature let out a blood-curdling shriek, and the search party scattered, running back towards the safety of the village. But the Jersey Devil was not so easily deterred. It pursued them, swooping down from the trees and attacking with razor-sharp talons and teeth. In the end, only a handful of the search party made it back to the village alive. They were shaken and terrified, and their stories of the creature in the forest spread quickly through the village. Some of the villagers refused to believe in the existence of the Jersey Devil, but others were convinced that it was real, and that it posed a grave threat to their community. The village council met to discuss what to do about the Jersey Devil. Some argued that it was a natural creature, simply trying to protect its territory. Others believed it was a supernatural entity, sent to punish the village for some unknown transgression. In the end, the council decided to act. They called upon a group of hunters and trappers from nearby towns to help them capture or kill the Jersey Devil. The hunters were skeptical, but the promise of a large bounty convinced them to take up the challenge. The hunt for the Jersey Devil began in earnest. The hunters set traps and baited them with animal carcasses, hoping to lure the creature into a position where they could capture it. They patrolled the forest at night, armed with rifles and lanterns, scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. But the Jersey Devil was cunning, and it always seemed to be one step ahead of the hunters. It evaded their traps and attacked them from the trees, swooping down to strike before disappearing into the night. As the weeks turned into months, the villagers began to lose hope. The Jersey Devil was still out there, and it seemed as though there was no way to defeat it. People stopped going into the forest, and the village began to decline as trade and commerce ground to a halt. And then, one night, the Jersey Devil struck again. It attacked a group of villagers who had ventured too close to the forest, killing them all and leaving their bodies mutilated and bloodied. The village was thrown into chaos. People barricaded themselves in their homes, and rumors began to circulate about the creature's true nature. Some claimed it was a demon, summoned from. The situation in Pine Barrens had become dire, and the village was on the brink of collapse. The Jersey Devil had claimed too many lives, and the villagers were living in constant fear. They had tried everything they could think of to defeat the creature, but nothing had worked. It appears the Jersey Devil was invincible. As the days passed, the villagers became more and more desperate. Some began to whisper about making a sacrifice to appease the creature, hoping that it would spare the rest of the village. Others talked of fleeing the village altogether, abandoning their homes and their livelihoods to escape the monster that had haunted them for so long. But then, something unexpected happened. A stranger arrived in Pine Barrens, claiming to have knowledge of the Jersey Devil and the power to defeat it. He was a tall, thin man with a shock of white hair and piercing blue eyes, and he carried with him a large, leather-bound book that he claimed was a guide to the occult. At first, the villagers were skeptical. They had heard of men like this before, charlatans who prey on people's fears and superstitions for their own gain. But as they listened to the stranger speak, they began to feel a glimmer of hope. The stranger claimed that the Jersey Devil was not a natural creature, but rather a demon that had been summoned to the forest by a powerful witch. He said that the only way to defeat the creature was to find the witch and destroy her spell. The villagers were hesitant, but they were also desperate. They agreed to follow the stranger into the forest, hoping that his knowledge of the occult would be enough to save them. The journey into the forest was treacherous, but the stranger led the way with confidence. He seemed to know the forest as well as the Jersey Devil itself, and he led the villagers through winding paths and hidden clearings until they arrived at a small hut deep in the heart of the forest. The hut was overgrown with vines and covered in moss, but it was unmistakably the home of a witch. The stranger instructed the villagers to stand back as he approached the hut, and he began to chant a series of incantations. As he chanted, the ground shook and the trees rustled, and the air was filled with a sickly sweet scent that made the villagers' heads swim. And then, with a deafening crack, the door of the hut burst open, and a figure emerged. It was the witch, and she was furious. She was an old, crone-like woman with stringy hair and yellow teeth, and she carried a gnarled staff that crackled with dark energy. She cursed at the stranger and the villagers, calling down all manner of plagues and misfortunes upon them. But the stranger remained calm, and he continued to chant his incantations. As he chanted, the witch's power began to wane. The air grew still, and the forest fell silent. And then, with a final burst of energy, the stranger cast a bolt of lightning at the witch, striking her down and destroying her spell. The effects were immediate. The Jersey Devil let out a blood-curdling scream, and then it was gone, vanishing into thin air. The forest fell silent once again, and the villagers were left staring at each other in disbelief. The stranger had saved them from the Jersey Devil, and they thanked him with tears in their eyes. But he only smiled and turned to leave, disappearing into the forest just as mysteriously as he had arrived. The villagers never saw the stranger again, but they knew that they owed him their lives. And though they never forgot the terror of the Jersey Devil.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.